Hello everyone, I hope you're really well and had a lovely half term. Welcome back to remote learning. It looks like we'll probably have another 2 weeks of this at least until Boris tells us what to do. And we are going to be continuing with our narrative writing for our literacy sessions, and we'll be looking at both Brightstorm, that's going to be our new class novel read by Mr. Firrell. We're going to be continuing to write our Skyship narratives, and we're also going to be having some reading sessions on Brightstorm too. But it all links, so hopefully when you're reading or listening to Brightstorm being read, it'll help you to gather some ideas for your own story writing as well. Okay, so session 5 follows on from the week before half term. So I really want you to try and think back to the Pi Corbett session. If you're really struggling, I have a link that you can use to watch that episode, that live lesson back to try and help you refresh about what you need to do. However, hopefully this presentation will be enough to remind you. So what you need to do first of all, what you are going to be doing today is you're writing the second part of your Skyship adventure, and your aim is to create an atmospheric setting for your narrative. Okay, so the fact is you are creating an atmosphere, so it might be tense, it might be really serene and calm, but I'm guessing it'd probably be more tense for the majority of our stories so far, because lots of them are following the attack of a skyship and the skyship having to land. Okay, so today's job is that you're going to continue your story, writing a setting that captures the reader's interest and creates an atmosphere. So what I would like you to do first of all is I want you to stop here and I want you to reread, so read back Pi Corbett's setting description as a model for our writing. This is the Stargrazer. You have it on another attachment on a Word document for you to read as well. So stop the video here and read this. Okay, hopefully you've all read that and you've got a bit of a recap and an idea of where your story needs to get to. So the things that I really took from this was they were coming, obviously they were attacked, preparing to land, coming down to land. They start describing a bit of the surroundings of the ancient ruined city, and then but they continue with the story plot. So obviously it is damaged, the airship is damaged, it's been damaged by the creatures. So the captain leaves with some of the crew to search for materials to mend the balloon, saying that Ty and Mariana need to stay put. And then suddenly at the end, cliffhanger, they hear something. So you need to think about how that could link to your story. This is your model text. Pi Corbett is an author, so this is your model text. You need to be thinking about what ideas you are going to magpie from this, the structure potentially, that can help you write your own version. Okay, remembering that we are on our Skyship adventure, so I've got lots of different pictures in case you needed help imagining looking out from your Skyship onto this setting description or scene. So it could be that you're looking through like almost a little porthole here, or you're stood on deck looking down, or maybe you're up a mast, or you're in the bird's nest. Really, you just need to think about where you are when you are describing the setting. Okay, so your first activity, you did this before. I want you to do this again because it will help you form some ideas. So you are going to set a 5-minute timer. You need to play the game that we played during the live lesson. So the sentence starter is, from the Stargrazer I can see. Then using pen and paper, you need to make a list of what you can see through the porthole of the skyship as it's descending, or if you're on deck. So my examples, I can see a windswept lake, gigantic oak trees and a lonely stone tower. You might notice there it's the power of 3 there. We did the power of 3 for the thief in the village. So it might be that you write a bit of a power of 3 sentence of what you can see. I can see a field of unicorns and a small fishing village. What can you see? So you've got 5 minutes to make a list. I've got some ideas here to help you. Please don't just write, I can see ruins. I've given that word to you, so you need to make it your own. Describe the ruins. Similarly, if you decide that you want to have swamps and lakes, describe the swamps and lakes, or think of different synonyms. Don't just give me the words that I have use to help you. So you need to make them your own. Okay, 5 minutes, stop that and make your list. Your list is not your task. Your list is an activity that's going to help you with your task today. Okay, so hopefully you've done that and you've got your list of what you can see from the skyship as it's descending. Your skyship has now landed or is in the process of landing. What you need to be doing when you are writing this is you are writing a setting description. That is the purpose, getting the atmosphere in. You need to be interesting your reader, and you need to be allowing your reader to see what's in your character's eye. So what is your character seeing? So I just thought this was quite helpful. So different types of stories use different sorts of settings, and this will help to locate a narrative within its typical environment. So I've got 3 different types of narrative. So fantasy, quest, and sci-fi. I thought they could all link to your different setting types. So I got these as examples. So if yours is a fantasy setting, for example, what you need to be doing, it hints at the top that settings need to include everyday objects that become fantastic in some way. So when we're saying fantastic, it's like fantastical. So for example, a window that speaks, a serving bowl on legs, a miniature elephant that acts as a sugar bowl, a sunflower whose centre is an eye, a sky with 2 moons, shadows with a life of their own, and so on. So you need to use fantasy place names such as Elf Forest or Misty Hill or Dragon's Lane. So lots of you have already done that, where you've started creating your maps as well. But if yours is a fantasy story, which they are really, I like the example of you can see sunflowers whose centre is an eye, or a sky with 2 moons, shadows with their own life, etc. So you can try and interpret some of those, but create your own examples. For quests, settings are often similar to settings for a traditional tale. So castle, tower, mountains, rivers, lakes, forests, deserts, magical cities, villages, wayside inns, swamps, underground mines, and so on. It says about drawing a map, which we've already done. And then think about mountains, forests, rivers, swamps, lakes, villages, towers, castles, etc. And think of place names. So if you could say that you think you are somewhere because you've heard about it, for example. And sci-fi settings include strange planets and spaceships. Futuristic settings include everyday objects given a scientific and futuristic twist. For example, a cup that automatically brews its own drink. So you need to give places and objects scientific and futuristic sounding names. For example, the time warp oscillator or the oxygenator. And Pi does that with using words such as megascope. Obviously that's a sci-fi take on an object which they've created. So think back to your objects list and you can include that, or you can think about what you can see on the horizon that might be a bit sci-fi. But if you want to keep this on your screen at one stage, you can, to jot down more ideas of things that you can see, you can absolutely do that. Those of you who end up doing things like this, I think you're the ones who are going to be really successful, okay? So thinking about a normal everyday object that you make fantastical, it has an element, which we've been doing the whole time, it has an element of fantasy. So you need to make sure that that's what you're doing. Okay, so you need to start by visualizing your own surroundings. Okay, what I mean by that is what your characters have landed, and you need to start visualizing and being able to see in your mind's eye what you are writing about. So you need your settings to be clear in your own mind before you write them. Okay, so your setting. So these are just some different examples that I found. So you've got some more like sci-fi ones, some like fantastical ones, and you've got some like normal settings. These are all on the presentation that you can look at. Just to give you ideas of things that you can write about from the spaceship. So skyship, sorry. But you need to visualize it before writing it, because if you can't visualize it, then you're not ready to write it, and your reader definitely isn't going to be able to visualize what you want them to. So every time you're writing, you need to think these 3 things. Where is it? When is it? And what's the weather like? If you can capture sentences about these 3 words, where, when, whether, the 3 W's, you will create a good setting description. So for example, where sentences, a stone tower with glittering lights loomed above the abandoned skyship. So where is it? Above the abandoned skyship. So that's the prepositional phrase. When, the moon shone down on the skyship like an albino eye, casting ebony shadows that shimmered. Okay, it's telling you when because the moon's shining, so therefore it's at night. Also note like an albino eye, casting ebony shadows that shimmered. Think about the word choices there. You need to be keeping up that level of writing. So thinking back for our last 4 sessions, even back to our You Are poem and our Dragon poem, really, really, really good images, no cliches, original writing. Okay, and then writing about the weather. Icy rain whipped across the hillside and battered the skyship's ragged balloon. Icy rain whipped across the hillside. What is that? Have a think. We've been talking about it a lot. Hopefully you've said that that's obviously personification. That action of whipping. Rain doesn't tend to whip, but we know from the word, the image that it's trying to create. So when you're writing, think where, when, and whether. Okay, right, so what I'm basically doing in this presentation is I'm giving you hints and tips for you to include to make your setting descriptions good. It's really, really clear that you need to have read the Pye Corbett one to get ideas also about how you need to incorporate your story within it. It's your next step, but the main part is you're creating an atmospheric setting description that's moving your story on at the same time. Okay, Pye Corbett's has been left on a cliffhanger. Captain O'Shea's gone off to go and get materials to try and fix the ship and told the children to stay. They hear a noise. You can make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen next? That's what you need to be doing throughout this. I'm just telling you things that you can include to make your setting description good. So here are 2 setting descriptions, which is better and why. So setting description 1, Kezzy went into the shed. It was messy, dark and dirty. There was a load of stuff in there. She hid. Right, I now want you to think about the difference and compare that to what I'm about to read. Kezzy stared round the shed. A fly crawled up the dusty window pane, cobwebs hung from the rafters, and a broken chair lay beside a pile of old carpets. The air smelled musty. From the back of the room, where it was quite dark, came the sound of something scratching, something scraping, something alive. But she had not got time to worry about that. Kezzy ducked down behind a large box and waited. Which is better and why? Okay, so hopefully you've obviously seen that this is the better setting description. I don't want this, and I'm worried I'm going to get this because you're just going to think that we just want a setting description. We don't. We want a quality setting description, and we will get you there. And we will get you to this eventually somehow, whether it's when we do it when we get back at school as well. But we need to have these, not these. Okay. What do you get from that? That's, I think I've got to include a setting description, so I'm going to write a couple of adjectives, whereas this is creating an atmosphere. It says what she can see, and then it starts thinking what she can hear, the sound of something scratching, something scraping, something alive. It's just really, really effective. So here it's saying about how you will notice how writers use sensory impressions to build pictures. So, and that's showing you the setting through the eye of Kezzy. Kezzy stared, so instantly you're looking through Kezzy's eyes and getting that picture. And that's why I've got some sentence openers for you to just help you to start off your setting description. So Sally stared at, Billy glanced round, Gary peered into, Francis gazed at. It's to bring the main character to a place and then show it through their eyes and having them look round. And when you're having them look round, you're describing the scene that they're seeing. That's a really, really effective and simple way of getting the reader to see what your character's seeing. Okay, whenever you're writing settings, it might be a good idea that you could just actually do a bit of a spider diagram where you say the 5 senses. So what can you see, smell, taste, hear, or touch? Then you could think about what's the weather like and what time of day it is. So stop it here, and on your notes page, can you make a note of just things that can help you, particularly the weather and time of day? Is it night? Is it midday? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it raining? Is it hailing? Is it sunny? Think about all of these, make notes, then think about what can you see and what can you hear first. There might be a particular smell in the air. It might be acrid smoke that you can actually smell. It will all create an atmosphere. Okay, so then you need to include prepositional phrases. So you need to say where things are. So it's going back to that where. You can use this to help you. Okay, I'm expecting to see these in your writing. So prepositional has position. So it says where something is. Okay, and a phrase is obviously a group of words. So the example is down here. So Jason stared around Salamander's hall. On the ceiling, prepositional phrase, you can instantly look up and imagine it. He could just see a faded light flickering. In the far corner, so where do you think you can imagine looking there now? There was what looked like an old suit of rusted armour. To one side, a table lay strewn with ancient maps, candlesticks, and a silver horn. Under the table, and poking out from a small box, was the very thing that he had been seeking, a miniature dragon. So prepositional phrases need to be included. So far, things to include. Where, prepositional phrases. When and whether. So we've got way to start, including the senses, weather, time of day, and prepositional phrases. Next thing, para 3. Okay, so the para 3, we've done this so much. It's something you should now know. Don't overdo it though. In the setting descriptions that I've read today, there's one para 3 sentence, possibly 2. Don't just write para 3 sentences over and over again. You will lose the effect. So the rule of 3, as a reminder, remember our set square and we wrote the 3 different sentences that linked. The rule of 3 is a writing technique that suggests that a group of 3 adjectives or examples is always stronger and more memorable than just one. So I've got some examples around the outside. So great pillars jutted up, oak doorways stood ajar, and huge empty windows stared down. So do you remember the set square? We used 3 different examples on each side. So strange animals, serpents, and what looked like dragons. A collection of glass jars containing berries, dried plants, and one filled with dull river stones sat at the edge of the desk. But again, those expanded noun phrases with dull river stones sat at the edge of the desk, it's saying where as well. The expanded noun phrases are really strong. So to one side, a table lay strewn with ancient maps, candlesticks, and a silver horn. 1, 2, 3. A fly crawled up the dusty window pane. 1. Cobwebs hung from the rafters. 2. And a broken chair lay beside a pile of old carpets. 3. But notice, up, hung from the rafters, and a broken chair lay beside. All of them, the para 3, it's saying where they are as well. It's really clear image. So overall, to make a setting sound real, collect examples in reading and use in writing. So that's why I've asked you to go back to Pi Corbett's, because you can do that. Collect the examples in his reading, what you read from his work, and put that into your writing. So set the scene in your head first. Show it through the character's eyes. So they looked around the room or they stared. Use sensory details to help the reader imagine the scene. So your senses. Introduce something out of place that will lead the story forward. So in the corner, she could see the treasure box. The treasure could lead it forward. Describe what there is in detail. And the example is the windows were smothered in a film of green grime that let in a strange light, cobwebs strung across the ceiling and dust powdered every surface. Make lists of what can be seen using sentences of 3, para 3, and use prepositions to show the scene. So above, below, nearby, on top of, beside, under, etc. You've got that. You can pause the video on those prepositional phrases to help you. Be exact. So it's that, be specific, and name it. So where is the story set? A vague answer such as London is no good. Be specific. Where is the main character? Are they sitting on the steps of the British Museum? Well, they're not going to be. Are they running past a pond in Hyde Park? We need the exact place. You need to say where they are on the skyship. Exactly. For example, reluctantly, Skater sat outside Sharky's on the cold stone step waiting. He tapped his foot. From inside, he could hear crisp sizzling. He sniffed and counted the flies crawling up and down the grease-stained window. Skater's stomach grumbled. At exactly 6 o'clock, the door swung open and he found his way into the oily warmth. Okay, so it's exactly, you can imagine the scene. That's what you need to be creating. Okay, so what do you need to do? You need to continue your story writing a setting that captures the reader's interest and creates an atmosphere. Things that you need to remember is use accurate punctuation, use images that say what you can see and hear, and each word has to earn its own place. Use alliteration, similes and metaphors to build pictures. That's weekly. You have to do that every week. Use personification to add atmosphere. So the wind moans, the icy rain whipped. We spoke about that. And name it. So say poodle, not dog, and say King Street, not the road. Make up a place name and of the country or the woods or the river. Be really specific. So write a setting description and continue your story. Read back through PyCorbits if you need any more help. Things to include. There's a list if you want to keep reading through it. But in summary, use para 3, use prepositional phrases, use your senses, the weather and time of day, and start using one of these sentence openers. Can't wait to read them all.